However, if Julia's first childbirth was as amazing as pushing a human out of your body can get, even the lighting is dreamy, her second childbirth is the complete opposite. She doesn't even have Brian as her ally at the moment, and he's still upset over what he perceives to be a betrayal, so when Julia explains again that this baby is her husband's, the only thing she has left of him, and that she knows the only way to keep the baby alive would be to make Lord Lovat believe. Brian believes her when she says it was his. Since they both know that his father is essentially scum, and even worse, dangerous scum, he is nevertheless furious that she would choose to have sex with him. He's starting to see, though, that she truly had no other option. Perhaps we wouldn't all be in this problem if a strapping young man had assisted her in getting to Inverness, but what do I know? And it's true that Lord Lovat is dangerous. In order to force Julia to marry him and have the kid he believes is his eventually take the Scottish throne, he spends the majority of the episode frantically attempting to get a priest to Castle Leathers before the baby is born. Will be his rightful successor. Henry's in a dangerous place after Outlander prequel's latest twist, says Star. The main characters in Outlander, Blood of My Blood are Ellen Mackenzie, Brian Fraser, Julia Morriston, and Henry Beecham, who are the parents of Claire Beecham and Jamie Fraser, respectively. Harry is in a particularly perilous situation in Episode 6, Birthright, when Roberts and Henry actor Jeremy Irvine talk about the prequel's most shocking episode to date and how it has affected Henry's mental state. In this episode, Archbug pays a midwife to tell Henry that Julia and their baby died during childbirth and are interred in an unmarked grave. Henry, a war veteran, is psychologically in danger after this realization sends him into a tailspin and causes him to lose his sense of reality. See the remarks made by Roberts and Irvine below. Jeremy Irvine, we have witnessed Henry and Julia's love for one another. We must now demonstrate that if he thinks she is dead, then a piece of him is also dead. He would give his life for her, and he must be absolutely and totally broken if that person is no longer there. I believed it would be quite satisfying to go from that feeling to the complete opposite. It was unnerving to watch him transition from complete despair and sorrow to joy. The script didn't mention any kind of laughter when we read it, but I thought, God, what if he begins laughing? What if he suddenly becomes extremely joyful? I believed we needed to demonstrate his level of insanity. Will we feel sorry for him when he goes and performs this terrible thing with Seema if we don't see him mentally losing control of reality? To illustrate his fragile mental state, I simply felt it would be incredibly unnerving to show him entering the deepest, darkest place and then emerging a few minutes later in the opposite emotion. Undoubtedly, the season closes on a high note. Thus, it keeps getting worse. Yes, there may be another encounter because if Julia were completely gone for him, the story would be done. After that, both of them will have to answer some extremely uncomfortable questions. They challenge the limits of unconditional love. Roberts Matthew B. They are devoid of freedom, in a sense, they lack free will. The birth of that child is undoubtedly bad for Julia. In fact, since she has a child, it gets worse. Henry cannot simply say, hey, I'm going to resign now, because he is working for the grants. I believe that both of these people are incarcerated and that their only goal is to visit one another. When Julia's water breaks and she wakes up, she goes to Brian for support. He sends for the howdai, which is Scottish for midwife, even though he is still furious since he thinks the baby is his half-brother. Julia tells Lord Lovat is heard calling for Julia while he is asleep, while Davina Porter, Sarah Vickers, tends to the fire in his room. She is shown being ordered into Lord Lovat's bed for the first time in a flashback. She was made to have sex against her will and threatened with expulsion if she disobeyed. When Tony Curran's character Lord Lovat awakens, he is dismayed to see Davina rather than Julia in his bedroom. She tells him that the kid is on the way and that Julia's water has broken. Because Julia is giving birth so soon, Lord Lovat is perplexed and gives Davina the task of giving Julia her finest gown. In order to make the boy his legal heir, he declares that he would wed Julia. To inform him that the midwife has already been called, Davina takes a chance of getting slapped. Before the baby is born, Julia won't be able to marry him at the kirk. In a conversation with her son Brian, Davina inquires as to whether he and Julia are involved and whether the child is his. Brian maintains that nothing is happening. Davina avoids answering his question about whether his father loved her. Davina thinks his father will ultimately see how valuable Brian is, and Brian is adamant that he wants to be deserving of the Fraser name. She tells her son to select a lady who merits him because she wonders why he now worries about wealth and titles. Brian didn't do anything to distinguish himself, he just did manual labor. By informing his son that he's fortunate to have the Fraser name, Lord Lovat offends him. When a lion is required, he acts like a lamb. When the rumors start to circulate, Julia is startled to find herself stripped naked and forced to face them. They offer their prayers for her and the safe delivery of her child. The lady gathered around to assist her as she was carried into the bed and clothed once again. As the Howdai, Mrs. Hughes, Alison Mackenzie, introduces herself and inquires about Julia's development. The idea of being able to boast that they were present at the birth of a future king of Scotland makes the gossips giggle. They consider this to be the prophecy's kid. Davina adds, a royal bastard is still a bastard, in response to the gossips' insistence that they don't give a damn about her single status. When the ladies contrast Davina's situation with Julia's, Davina becomes furious. She maintains that Julia attempted to woo her son Brian and seduced Lord Lovat. The ladies who came to assist with the delivery are persuaded that Julia must turn from her misdeeds when Davina changes their thoughts. They will continue to pray for the baby, but they will not pray for Julia. They refer to her as the devil's offspring, a shame, and a Jezebel. As Julia perspires and groans in agony, Davina says it again, shame. As the women start crying, Davina clarifies that they are lamenting the passing of her innocence. They still accuse her of lacking morality and demand that she repent. The ladies accuse Julia of having an affair with Brian,